NBA head coach Chauncey Billups and NBA player Terry Rozier are among 34 people charged with committing a multi-million-dollar gambling scheme. The charges range from various sports betting-related activity all the way to illegal poker games that were using cheating devices in order to scam people out of their money playing in these games with famous athletes. My name is Doug Polk. I'm one of the best gamblers in the world, most specifically in poker, so I can break down exactly what all of this means to you if you're looking for a more inside information way of understanding this story. There will be many updates to this story as it unfolds, so make sure to subscribe for the latest from my channel. Okay, so here's what we know so far. 34 people have been arrested and charged. This spans over 11 states and involves tens of millions of dollars. FBI Director Kash Patel called these arrests historic, saying it's not hundreds of dollars, it's not thousands of dollars,
not four,
it's not tens of thousands of dollars,
not five,
it's not even millions of dollars,
not six, not seven.
We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation. The alleged fraud is historic in terms of money and deceit used to steal and swindle, including crypto fraud. There are two separate cases going on here, and we want to think about them each individually. The first is the sports betting case. In this case, there are 6 people accused of an insider sports conspiracy that exploited information about athletes and their teams and used that information to win money gambling. U.S. Attorney Joseph Nocella Jr. called it one of the most brazen sports corruption schemes since online sports betting became widely legalized in the United States. The second case is about rigged poker games where 31 defendants were using technology and athletes to lure people in and cheat them out of a lot of money in these high-stakes poker games. We're going to talk about both these stories, and I'm going to give you some in-depth analysis on the poker side, but let's talk about the sports betting side first. So in sports betting, you guys might know about this. You can bet on all kinds of different things, the game, the total, how players perform. And the problem with that is that if a player then decides to essentially go to the dark side here, they can bet against themselves knowing they can ensure that they won't hit certain statistics. This is something we've known for a long time. In fact, it's not even just NBA players that can do this. NBA refs can as well, where there was a gigantic story on this about 20 years ago from an NBA ref who was cheating using this method. That ref's name was Tim Donaghy, and in 2007, the FBI launched an investigation into Donaghy where they discovered that he was involved in match fixing. Basically, he would try and make a call that would help one team or hurt another team, and this sent shockwaves to the NBA, which was trying to clean up its image and say these games are fair, only then to have this fallout happen. It makes perfect sense. If you're a professional sports league, you wouldn't want anything to do with gambling, which is why today's video is brought to you by my favorite place to play poker, and you can check out more information in the pinned comment. And if you do sign up, make sure to type in my name. But back to this Rozier case. Here's what makes this story especially bad. In late June, Shams reported that Heat guard Terry Rozier was cleared after betting investigation. So the NBA looked into Terry Rozier and said, yep, this guy's good. Then the FBI did and said, not so fast. Rumor has it after being cleared of wrongdoing, Terry said to local authorities, cash me if you can. One of the games in question happened in 2023. Terry Rozier had an early exit from the game while he was playing with the Hornets. NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch went on to say that Rozier told a group that he planned to leave a game early on March 23, 2023, while he was playing with the Hornets. Quote, using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The proceeds were later delivered to his home, where the group counted their cash. By all accounts, this is one of the dumbest stories I've ever heard. In the 2023 season, Terry Rozier was making $23 million playing basketball. There were 82 games in the season. That means Terry was making over $250,000 a game, yet was then trying to make tens of thousands of dollars on the side that he has to chop up with his friends. And the reason we know it wasn't even 100K is the article says tens of thousands. So clearly, this was something that was like 70 or 80K. Imagine making $250,000 for one night of work, and then you do something illegal that jeopardizes your entire career to make like 25K on the side. What are we doing? But it might not just be that one incident causing issues for Terry Rozier and other defendants. According to the indictment, Rozier and other defendants, quote, had access to private information known by NBA players or NBA coaches that was likely to affect the outcome of games or players' performances, and provided that information to other co-conspirators in exchange for either a flat fee or a share of betting profits. Viewers of ESPN's Get Up show saw this hilarious incident where a gambling ad in the bottom right of the show mysteriously just disappears. Welcome to Doug's 5-star locks of the day. What am I taking in tonight's action? Well, I've got the -800 Chauncey Billups to go to jail. I'm also taking the under on 0.5 games on Terry Rozier's remaining NBA career. Actually, the way these things play out, you might want the over. I don't know. How sad is that? Moving to case number 2, the poker cheating side of this story. And we've got to start off here with the official document of these names because, guys, this is incredible. We see NBA coaches on here like Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones. But we also have some wild nicknames like Nelson Alvarez, known as Spanish G, Louis Apicella, known as Lou App, and Amar Awadawa, known as Flapper Poker, or just Flappy. To be honest, if my name was Amar Awadawa, I might go with Flappy too. Eric Ernest, known as Spook. Matthew Didino, known as The Wrestler. That one's fitting because after these arrests, he's going to be down for the count. We've also got Black Rob, Doc, Pookie, Jay, and John South. Hell of a lineup. We've got a lot of people on this list, including Curtis Meeks, who's a player who actually played on my poker show at my card room in Austin, Texas Lodge Card Club. Allegations of cheating in Chauncey Billups games are not new. In fact, we first saw this a few years ago where on a poker podcast by Matt Berkey, we saw this conversation happen in real time.
There was this game. It started in LA and then it came to Vegas for a few days, and it was all built around Chauncey Billups. And I had heard about the game, and the person who told me about it was like, look, I know the game runners. I'm telling you 100% this game is on the up and up. And I was like, well, I know a lot of the people that are involved, and I'm telling you 100% that it is not on the up and up. Yeah. And, we kind of went back and forth, and I agreed that, like, I just wasn't going to go play it. But I had some friends who went and played it both in LA and in Vegas. And it obviously, like, was for sure confirmed to be cheated. Mm-hmm. Like, people who clearly didn't even understand the rules of No Limit Hold'em are just, like, jamming hundreds of big blinds in with like a gutty and then just drilling it. Yeah. Only the pros are losing.
It's wild. It could be so well known. It's even on a public podcast that long ago, and still it takes years for anything to actually happen about it. But back to the matter at hand. How do you cheat in poker? Well, there are so many ways, and let me break it down for you. The most old school way people would cheat is they would mark the back of cards, usually high cards like aces. So you would know who was dealt an ace, and then you could fold when they raised or go after them when they didn't have one of those cards. Over time, cheating got more sophisticated. In fact, sometimes they would use an ink and then have glasses to see that ink where only the person with those glasses could recognize it. There were also other simple ways of cheating, like two players could signal back and forth using hand signals or locations of their arms to let the other player know what cards they had in that hand. But over time, cheating has gotten more sophisticated. Like, for example, we saw a case on Stone's Gambling Hall where allegedly a player won several $100,000 by looking at his crotch over 2 years of poker live streams. Breaking down that story is actually the biggest video in the history of this channel with over 4 million views. And if you want to watch it, I'll put a link below. But the cliff notes are, on some poker shows, the back has access to the cards and then sends it to a player at the table, and they can use that to then beat you out of money by knowing your exact cards while you're at the table. Poker is not a game you can beat someone if they know your cards. The worst player will always win because they know when they're ahead and they know when they're behind. There was also another very famous poker incident where allegedly a player knew someone's cards and called all in with just jack high on a board that did not have a jack or a 4 out there, and they were good up against 8 high. A play so crazy, it only makes sense if you knew their cards. But we've also seen the rise of a new form of cheating being used over the course of the last few years, where a shuffling machine that shuffles the cards is used to cheat players out of money at the table. I believe this is what's being used in these Chauncey Billups games.
There's actually a camera inside the shuffler, and it will read the cards. And it's kind of funny because it's put in there for security purposes.
That camera will know every card's location, and it can transmit to another player knowing which cards will go where, and you know everything in the entire deck based on what's in your hand, and you can use that to know who will win a hand. You can know who will win the hand before the cards are even out there. When you have this technology, you cannot lose. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, Wired magazine put a video up breaking this entire thing down, and they do a pretty good job. In fact, they got some of the leading experts in the field to weigh in on the subject.
To get another opinion about this, I spoke to Doug Polk, a YouTuber and card house owner in Austin, Texas.
So these shuffle machines, I've seen them all over the place, frankly. I've seen them from the largest, most legitimate established. So now that we know how it works, the camera knows the cards and you know who's going to win. How do they get all of these people together? So typically this is what they do. You have a celebrity come into a game, a player that everyone thinks will be bad at poker. And when you know they're going to go, then other people will sit down to go play with them. And then you have a few people that are professional players who play quite seriously that will join the game to win money. And usually the idea is to try and target those people that are there to make a living playing poker, because generally speaking, they're going to pay their debts as it is their profession. I saw in this story that they called the bad players fish or whales, which is true. And normally we call good players sharks. But they also said these celebrities or athletes were known as face cards. I've never heard of that in my entire life, but what do I know? I've only been in the poker world for 2 decades. You might think it's pretty rare for these high stakes games to run where people are being cheated out of hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, but that is actually not the case. They happen quite frequently. In fact, we had a big one that happened last year in Los Angeles. In this wild tale, players were actually marking cards, and certain players lost large amounts of money before realizing it. And then players went into hiding. There were gambling syndicates. There was mafia ties. This crazy story happened in 2024 and did not even involve any poker celebrities. There are sometimes other problems with these home games as well. Like, for example, taking an illegal cut of the money known as the rake and using that for profit. In fact, we saw a giant story with Gilbert Arenas break where he was raking games and making money illegally and got busted by the feds. Gilbert Arenas was arrested and charged with operating an illegal gambling business out of his Encino, California mansion, where high-stakes poker games were allegedly held from September 2021 to July 2022. The operation allegedly involved a house cut of every pot, which is called a rake, staffed by dealers, chefs, valets, and women who served drinks and provided massages. Prosecutors of the case are using a photo of a poker table with Arenas Poker Club as part of its case. Now, to be fair, this is not saying that he cheated. It's saying he ran an illegal game, which are different, and in my opinion is less morally bad. You're not cheating people out of money. You're just running a game that is in violation of your local laws. That story happened in late July, and some people are now speculating that Gilbert Arenas may have ratted out Chauncey Billups as a way to perhaps lighten his sentencing in his case coming up. Is that true or not? We do not know, but certainly those rumors are swirling. But back to this story. Going through the document here, we can see exactly what they were using, and it does appear to be the rigged shuffling machines. Rigged shuffling machines were secretly altered to use concealed technology to read the cards in the deck, predict which player at the table had the best poker hand, and relay that information via interstate wires to an off-site operator. The operator then communicated that information by cellular telephone to a member of the cheating team seated at the rigged game poker tables, referred to as the quarterback or driver, who used secret signaling to share the information with the other members of the cheating teams playing in the rigged games. This document contains many, many examples of rigged games that were being run over the course of the years, and the people that they stole from are listed as John Doe, so we don't know all of the names of the people that were cheated, but it has so many people implicated here. It's crazy that a cheating ring of this magnitude was able to run without a leak. I'm actually just kind of impressed they even managed to do that. According to Point 44, overall, from approximately April 2019 to the present, the rigged poker scheme caused losses to the victims of at least $7.1 million. That is a gigantic amount to win cheating. Except when you realize Chauncey Billups made over $100 million in his basketball career and has made millions since then coaching in the NBA. $7 million, you're gonna chop that up 34 ways? I mean, what are we doing here, guys? Also in this document, it mentions, in addition, on one occasion, several of the defendants conspired to steal a rigged shuffling machine from John Doe number 7. where a bunch of defendants conspired to commit and committed a gunpoint robbery of John Doe number 7 to steal a specific model of rigged shuffling machines. That's one game you don't want to get dealt in under the gun. I had to do at least one bad poker joke. So what counts are going into this? We have wire fraud conspiracy, operation of an illegal gambling business, 2 counts on that. Money laundering conspiracy, Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy, 2 counts on that. There are so many details here and so much more to come forward. And with all of this swirling in the background, at a press conference yesterday from Chauncey Billups, he had this to say.
That pressure thing is nothing to me, man. I do the best I can and let the chips fall where they may. You know that about me by now, quick.
I've got some bad news, Chauncey, because to me, it looks like those chips are falling. To not miss any updates from this scandal from the eyes of a gambling professional, make sure to hit subscribe. I'll see you guys again soon.